Do you ever find yourself starting a match with no idea what to expect? Well, I have 5 tips for you that are going to help you understand your opponent and give you an advantage before the game has even started. Ben from PH Tennis here, and one of my favourite things to do is to watch and analyse my opponents. And I'm going to give you 5 little tips today that are going to help you get a little bit of a behind the scenes look into your opponent, into their mindset, into their equipment and their play style, which means when that match starts proper, you're going to be a little bit further ahead than you normally are. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to get it right 100% of the time. I'm not even going to say that these tips are always going to work, but there are certainly things you should be looking for to help inform your tactical and technical choices. Without further ado, let's get cracking. Number 1 is, before the game even starts, have a little look at your opponent's equipment. Now, for example, I am holding a Yonex Percept 97H here. That is a heavy tennis racket. It's a serious tennis racket. It is a good tennis racket for higher level players. Now, that might give you a bit of an insight into how I like to play. There's lots of other things you can look for. Do they have their ink on their strings? To have their strings been restrung? And if they have been restrung, have they been inked? If they've been restrung, they're probably a fairly good tennis player. If they've been inked, they may well be sponsored, so a very good tennis player. Or they might be brand new factory strings and they've never bothered to get it done. That's going to give you an insight into their playing style as well. And if you can't tell the difference between a sponsored coach and someone who's never had their racket restrung, you're probably in for bigger problems than not being able to tell the difference. The other thing, and one of the most obvious, is the age of their racket. The one thing you know if somebody's got a 20-year-old racket is that they've been playing tennis for 20 years. Now, doesn't mean they're good, but it means they would have seen it all before. All the tricks, all the games, all the little nuances of tennis, they will not be surprised. So put away all your mind games, put away all your gamesmanship, and get ready for a nice classic battle. So you've had a surreptitious little look in their racket bag, and now it's time to get on court. And this is what you should be looking for. Where do they go? Some players are going to go straight to the service line and ask to play in the boxes a little bit. Does that really mean anything? Maybe they just like a nice long warm-up. Are they trying to protect an injury, maybe? Or if they go straight to the back of the court, where exactly? Have they stood on the baseline, an old school, playing nice and early, taking the ball on the rise perhaps? Or they've gone and stood 3 or 4 steps behind the baseline. Okay, have we got a deep topspin heavy clay court player coming up against us? So where they go on the court does give you quite a lot of information about what to expect. Next, we have their style of play, and most importantly, the swing length. So some players have big, long, loopy swings. It's not good, it's not bad, but it does work very, very well against slow incoming balls. So if you've got somebody who's got a really big, long swing, maybe hitting with a bit of pace is going to cause them some problems. Conversely, if you've got someone who's got short, little pushy, stabby swings, trying to overpower them is going to be much harder to do, and maybe you need to try and be a little bit more creative, ask them to do some of the work. So when they go on the court, you're looking where they're standing and then how they're playing. Make sure you throw plenty of variation at them so you get a good idea. Do they slice a lot? Do they wind up and hit really hard? How much do they miss? Do they mind if the ball's close to them, if they're having to bend down low? All these things, just sort of test them out and see how they play in certain situations. Next up, we have time. Now, you've all been involved in those warm-ups with players that seem to go on forever and ever and ever. You have pun players who come to the net and want about 50 volleys, 20 smashes. That's telling you a lot of information. There's plenty of other people who will have one volley and go, yeah, that'll do. They're probably not going to be at the net very much, are they? So it's not a be-all and end-all, but it is a good indication of how long they spend doing each sort of section of the warm-up. How long do they want to spend at the back? How long do they want to spend at the net? Do they ask for smashes? And then how long do they spend serving and returning? Lots of players warm up their serves, but only a very, very clever player is going to spend a long time returning. And that is a little bonus tip for you. Make sure you return more than you serve. You want to get used to their serve without giving too much away about your own, and slides very nicely into our last and final tip, tip 5. The last thing to look for is their serve, and in particular, how much variation do they have. You will find hundreds of players with big, scary first serves, but that might be all they have. And realistically, that's not that difficult to deal with, is it? You take a few steps back, you shorten your swing, and you start chipping some returns. The danger is the player who's got a big flat first serve, a slice out wide, who has great kick on their second serves, who can put it in all sorts of different places in the box. So that's what you need to be wary of whilst you're warming up. The best thing you can see is one serve from your opponent. Maybe they're a left-hander and they're slicing everything out wide on the ad court. Great, that's going to help you on that very first point on the ad court, obviously. Going to give you so much information, going to help you move and maybe prevent an ace, maybe get a return in, and that might help you break serve in the very first game of the match. So make sure you pay perfect attention to how many different serves they perform. So there you have it, 5 very quick, very simple things to pay attention for. Now, a word of caution. These are not decisions, this is information. There is a big step between information and decisions. What we are looking for and what we're trying to do is just gather up information that may be useful in the future. Just because a player's got a long swing doesn't necessarily mean they're going to play in a certain way. Just because they didn't volley in the warm-up doesn't mean they're not going to be at the net all the time. So bear in mind there is strengths and weaknesses to all of this stuff, but the more informed you are, that can only be good in my book. So make sure you spend lots of time looking at that opponent, trying to figure them out, and just try and build an idea of what to expect when that match starts. You never know, could make all the difference. Thank you very much for watching, and as usual, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.